19th, 2001, and we'll begin our board meeting. Thank you. First item on the agenda is the flag salute. Susan, would you like to lead us in the flag salute?
Yeah. Ready, begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes of December 14th, 2020 organizational and regular meeting.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, then we will take a vote. I'd like to start with Mrs. Lopez.
Yes.
And Mrs. Blendine. And Mr. Favela.
Aye.
And Mrs. Levis.
Aye.
Okay, so the minutes for December 14th have passed. The next item will be the community relations, and at this moment we have a hearing session, and we have had the wonderful opportunity to allow for the community to call in and speak if they so choose, or have our clerk, Mr. Favela, read their comments. So I believe you do have some comments.
Right. So do we begin with the live public comment or read the comments first?
Live public is fine.
Live public, okay. All right, so public, number one is Sandra Forrest. Subject is budget concerns.
We're not currently seeing Sandra logged in.
Okay,
If we can skip down to the next one and see if she logged in the next one.
sure.
All right, next up we have Sherry Wayshaw. Subject of comment, great job.
We told this is a brand new first time doing it.
I understand.
Not seeing either of them on at the moment. Possibly we need written comment first and see.
We can jump back.
Thank you.
Sure. All right, so we'll move on to written comment and jump back to live comment. I hope they will be able to join us. So next we're going to hear from Michelle Jordan. And she's a parent of a student at Mayellis Elementary. I would like to thank the district leadership and in particular Superintendent Singh for all their hard work in navigating us through this challenging time. I'm sure that given the nature of our communications right now, people are often only reaching out when something is wrong and not when things are going well. Nothing is ever going to be perfect in educating during a pandemic, going to be perfect about educating during a pandemic, but I appreciate the commitment to keeping our reopening plan moving forward. Your hard work has not gone unnoticed by parents. Thank you for all you do for our kids.
Thank you very much for writing that. That was a very nice letter.
Next, we have Jennifer Montgomery. Good evening. I am writing as a parent to say thank you to the FUESD Governing Board and specifically to Dr. Singh for her leadership through this incredibly difficult school year. Thank you for always following the science and for remaining clear-headed, thoughtful, and transparent with families at all times, and for giving families choices that best meet their educational and safety needs. You were in an unenviable position where no matter what, your decisions were met with anger. Thank you for focusing on the safety and health of our children, our incredible teachers, and the classified staff that makes every school run. We are all surviving a pandemic, and some days feel incredibly painful. Thank you for showing our community that our public officials can lead with intelligence and compassion instead of hysteria and conspiracy. May we all be together on campus next year.
Thank you. Thank you for writing.
And we have one more from Yesenia Balcazar. As a parent, I would like to listen more frequently to the board meetings and be informed of the decisions that are being made that will have an impact on my kids' education. but I never get any notifications of board meetings. Is it possible to join an email list or have the school districts and parents email reminders of board meetings?
Excellent suggestion. Could we add that to our discussion for future agenda items? That's excellent.
I think it's already there, but
Great, thank you.
I'll ensure that it's
Okay.
added.
I'll make a note too.
And we can go back to,
We now have both of ours on.
Awesome.
so Sandra Forrest,
We're just letting it run, muting her now. She's on now.
Hello.
Sorry, you guys have the microphones. I don't. You could just say.
Mallory, go ahead.
Okay, we're ready. You can go ahead and read. We can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is Sandra Forrest. After 24 most enjoyable years teaching language arts at Potter, I retired in 2013. I'm enjoying my unscheduled time. I did, however, decide to volunteer with one unique local charity group for this reason. Funds are generated solely through a thrift shop, and all profits are given back to local residents and agencies through grants and scholarships via an open application process. As a recently approved director of this group, I now have access to the charity's non-public information, and which is the reason for this letter. Picture me several weeks ago as a new director reading the December agenda. It included the usual items, but two requests were of particular interest. Groups in two different district schools were asking for funds, two requests at $500 each for a total of $1,000. Monies were to provide for various student support services, playground equipment, students in classroom supplies, and even items for COVID protection. Now picture me again reading the director's agenda, but with Ricardo Favella's January 30th, 2020 letter to the Village News clearly in mind. I thought to myself, why is this district paying its superintendent such an excessive salary, yet leaves student needs, possibly life-saving, to be supplied and or supplemented by a local charity? Dr. Singh oversees fewer than 5,500 students, yet is now paid more than the superintendent of LA Unified with over 500,000 students. Let that sink in. You are paying the superintendent of this district more than the superintendent of LA Unified, which at over 500,000 students is the largest public school district in the entire United States. Why does such an outrageous situation exist in this small district? As a nonprofit charity, every request for funds is carefully reviewed before being approved. A check for just $1,000, for example, is a huge amount to our many scholarship recipients. In contrast, Dr. Singh was given a raise of $30,000 by the previous governing board, in addition to her already substantial salary. If the superintendent can be paid such an excessive amount, why does any district school support group have to go to a local charity in order to provide for its students? I certainly would prefer, however, that hard-earned financial support from a local nonprofit be awarded to applicants who have limited financial resources, rather than supplement student needs in a school district with a multi-million-dollar annual budget and obviously plenty of discretionary funds. Rather than just point out an absurd situation, I do have a solution. Number one, reclassify the superintendent's $30,000 raise in January 2020 as a one-time only annual stipend. And number two, vote that the renamed one-year stipend expire as of January 2021.
of course,
Imagine the student benefits with the $30,000 divided among district school sites.
Thank you very much for your comments. We ran out of time. I do want to tell you that we respect your opinions and we very much appreciate your volunteering at the Angel Society, which supports many, many of our charities in Fallbrook. Thank you.
all right, and next we have Sherry Weishar. Sorry if I mispronounced the name.
Am I here? There we are. Hi, my name is Sherry Weishar, which everybody gets wrong, so don't worry. I have had children literally in the elementary school district for 20 years. Yep, spread them way out, got a ton of kids. And I have been through a lot of crisis with the school district, including 9/11, the fires in 2007. And I have to say, this COVID pandemic and the way that you've handled it has been amazing. The support that you've given to families, the comfort in knowing that you're doing everything you can to get our students back into their regular learning environment has just been wonderful. And I want to thank you for that. That was it.
Thank you so much for taking the time, all of you, to write in or call in. We really appreciate that extra commitment to your students and all of our students here in Fallbrook. Are there any more?
That's it.
Okay, so we're going to close the hearing session. Again, we thank you for your commitment to taking the time to join us tonight. Right now, we'll be having a report from the board members, and we'll start with Mrs. Lopez.
I don't really have anything to report. We've had a couple of great sessions learning more about the district, and I've really enjoyed those one-on-one opportunities to meet with various people, including Mr. Shinoff, who's given us some legal issues or guidance as far as how his company reacts or works with the district. I'm looking forward to more of those sessions in the next couple of weeks. I feel like my calendar is full of trainings coming up. So, but every time I go to one of these trainings, I learn more and more about Fallbrook Unified School District. So that's good because I don't know a lot about them. I know a lot about education, but not about this specific school district. So it's been great to learn that. I'm also looking forward, hopefully sometime in the future, to be able to get out into the schools and the communities more to represent the districts that we represent.
You know, you've joined in a difficult time with COVID.
I know.
Normally, we would have been at many schools. So
Right.
thank you. Okay, Mrs. Lundin.
Thank you. I want to echo what Mrs. Lopez said. We've had some outstanding briefings by our cabinet. I would like to specifically thank Mrs. Norby, Mrs. Martin, and Mr. Billingsley and your staffs. We had, I think I counted 6 hours worth of briefings, and they were extraordinary. They were very, very well put together. It was a pleasure to meet your staffs and to really dig down into curriculum and finance and budget and human resources. So I really want to thank you for taking the time to put those together. Very, very helpful. And then we had, I think all of us participated in a 3-hour budget briefing on the governor's education budget. And that was equally outstanding. It was incredibly well put together. So last week was a great and useful week. So thank you very much for facilitating all that.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Favela.
Sure, I can report that my children went back to school today. They went back to in-person schooling and picked them up after school, and they all expressed their happiness. So I love to hear that. And I always say it's hard to hear that from an 8th grader.
Yes.
Happy about school. So I really appreciate what the district's doing. And even before that, when we were in at-home distance learning, it was just like they knew how to pivot. So it's really good to see the students being able to function well in either situation, but they're very happy to be back in school. I also attended the governor's budget workshop. Yeah, it was quite a bit of information. Overall, it sounds like it's very positive. Deferrals are going to be paid down, which is a good thing. And also see that universal TK is going to be supported as well. So lots of good things coming from that workshop. And finally, just wanted to remind parents that and everybody that sports is open at this time. Baseball is open, youth baseball, girls softball is open. So we're in registration periods at this moment. So I'm going to put a plug in for FallbrookGirlsSoftball.com, Bonzo Fallbrook Little League, which is out here, this field right here. And there's also Fallbrook Youth Baseball. And I'm going to try to find out some more information. Last year we did a sports info night. This year it's been difficult to put something like that together, but I'm still going to work on a flyer with some information about any sports that are available at this time. And I had my children participate in softball and baseball last season in the fall, and it was safe. They kept distance. It was limited to just the athletes and a certain number of people on the field. Parents couldn't get close, so it was carried out pretty well. So encourage parents to get involved.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, this is Lisa.
Yes, well, I echo what Mr. Favela said about the virtual learning and how smooth the pivot was for students and teachers. And I want to thank again our teachers for their flexibility. One of the silver linings of this whole situation has been able to, for me to have been able to hear my teachers, my students and my teachers interacting, kind of the background noise in our household. And I'm just always amazed at their enthusiasm. And there were several times over the last couple of weeks where my husband has turned to me and said, how do they do this all day? It's amazing. And their patience and they're providing that connection for our kids that they really need, especially now. So thank you to our wonderful teachers. I was also at the budget workshop, and I was glad to see that there's so many different grants and resources available for the COVID costs, that applications and reporting requirements look strenuous, but I have no doubt that our staff will navigate that process and get all the resources they can for our students. I have had the opportunity to serve as a parent on the Males Parent Lighthouse Committee, which has been a great experience working with teachers and administrators there and other parents to brainstorm ways to use the leadership model to have connection between home and school. And one of the things that came up in our last meeting, our school counselor reviewed the panorama survey data, which is actually on our consent agenda, the panorama survey contract. And so the school counselor for Alice went over that data a little bit. And one of the things I didn't realize is that it's not just an anonymous survey. They actually get data on individual students. And so because we have full-time counselors in the schools, they're able to use that data to specifically reach out to students who need extra support and to follow up. And now we're learning it's so important. And I know not all of our kids are doing the same right now as well as others during this time. So I'm so grateful to the leadership of our district like that possible to have full-time counselors and all those.
Thank you very much. I just have a very short report. First, I want to shout out to Cindy Martin, who's been tapped for the cabinet, assistant cabinet position. If you don't know who Cindy is, she is the superintendent of the San Diego Community College, San Diego High School or Unified. I'm sorry. I work for one of those, and she started as a teacher and then became a superintendent, and now she's launching off to work for all of us. And to have someone out of San Diego is so invaluable, because I think she will take our message. You almost can't not take your history with you. So I think it will be helpful. I also think it's fabulous that the president's wife is in the community college, because we really need support. And I don't think that we've ever had the ear of the president at the same level we're going to have it right now for education. So I wanted to point that out. We had a closed session this Saturday, which lasted for over 2 hours. I really appreciate everybody taking the time out of their Saturday on a 3-day weekend, including Mr. Billingsley and Mr. Shenoff, to sit for 2 hours and listen to ourselves figure something out. And so I was really impressed. We're a new board. We've only been together. This is really our first full meeting as a new board. We had the December 14th meeting. And so, this is a difficult kind of transition, and everybody seems to be really doing a fabulous job jumping on board. I too attended the governance briefing, which was brilliant. These people are so articulate. I'm envious. I wish I had those speaking skills. And I think the governor has our back on most issues, and that financially we should be in fairly good shape. That's pretty much the end of my report. Okay, so we're now moving on. I guess that's me again. So we're now moving on to the report of the superintendent, and I believe Mr. Billingsley will be taking that position.
I will. Thank you, Mrs. Lieber. I have two things for the governing board this evening. One is I'm really happy to report that our governing board meetings and agenda dates and times are now going to be published in the Village News regularly. And we've already begun, the first Village News article with this governing board meeting had already been published. But in our effort to expand our outreach and make sure that our stakeholders and families and community members know what we're doing, it's super important. So I'm happy to report that. The second thing is that I wanted to report that Dr. Singh was so incredibly disappointed to miss today, knowing that it was the first day in a while having our students back. A reminder, they've been virtual, as you well know, for the past 2 weeks, and it's always kind of special the first day back. So Dr. Singh is out with an illness this evening, and regrets that she can't be here. But we were able to make contact with all of our principals today and make sure that everything was good. We had a couple students that and families that forgot it was Tuesday and not Monday, as might be expected. But we were able, with the help of Mr. Trench, to put together a nice little slideshow so that you can see some of the cool stuff that happened today. So.
Cute. Oh, cute.
Short and sweet, guys.
Nice. Thank
Great,
you.
thank you.
Very
Thank
nice.
you.
Well done.
Still, because we can't get into the school sites, it's so nice to have you present that. So it's exciting that we're back in person again. And I believe we're on schedule, Mr. Billingsley, if you want to continue. Are we on schedule for the rollout in February 1st? Phase 3.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yep, for our second and third, and having our students attend 5 days a week. Yep, that'll be right, it's right around the corner.
Yes, right.
We are ready.
Okay, so anything more?
That is the report from the superintendent. That brings us to board operations.
Thank you. So moving on to board operations, our first piece of business is to elect one of our 5 school board trustees to the North Coastal Consortium for Special Education. The acronym is NCCSE. And I would like to open it to nominations. I'm just going to take nominations as they come in, and then we will have a vote. I personally would like to make a nomination as Susan Liebes.
Second that.
Second that, okay. Are there any other nominations? Are there any discussion?
I think she'd be great.
Thank you. I'd be honored to serve.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll close the discussion and we'll take a roll call. Mrs. Lopez,
Aye.
Mrs. Landine,
Aye.
Mr. Favela, Mrs. Liebes,
Aye.
and Mrs. Lieber, aye. I don't have a paper to sign for this, so I'm assuming that it will just happen. Okay, thank you. Super. The next one is action item number 2, a resolution to establish additional regular board meetings. Each of you received a handout just now. It will not be attached to the agenda. Somehow it didn't get attached to the agenda, I should say. If you will tear these 2 pieces of paper apart, you'll be able to set them side by side, and you'll be able to follow along with the reason this is on the agenda. I was kind of disappointed that Dr. Singh did not explain the reason for this being on the agenda in the answers that we received. But what happened was, in December 14th, we voted on the 2021 agenda, And we voted off 2 calendar days that were on the 2019 agenda, and it was not explained to me why they had been removed. And I'm not saying that we necessarily need them. I would just like an explanation for why they were removed, and we were not told that they were removed. So we've gone from 16 meetings in 2019, or I'm sorry, 2020 to 14 meetings in 2021. Excuse me, I think I said 2019. So that was the reason that this was introduced. I wasn't sure of why this was not explained to us before we voted on it.
Mrs. Lieber, I have a couple comments, if I may.
Please.
It's always been our goal to eliminate meetings when we don't need to meet, because we know how incredibly busy everyone is. And when a second monthly meeting is not necessary or is not viewed as necessary to conduct the business in any given month, those meetings were suggested to you to be eliminated. And so we did go from 16 meetings down to 14. We did a consolidated meeting in March, and then I believe if I'm not mistaken, the August, excuse me, August, so March and August. And so I know that there was some discussion by the board when the calendar was approved on December 14th. But having said that, it is certainly the board's prerogative to add, make changes, alter the calendars. And all I would need to know is you just need to decide on additional dates, or if you'd like to have those 2 governing board meetings added back in. That's certainly, this is an action item, so that's certainly something that we can accomplish this evening.
Yes.
First off, thank you so much for being sensitive to time demands, and because it's not just demands on our time, but also the staff's. I guess my thought is, since 3 of the 5 of us are new, that there's a real utility, I think, to having those second meetings in March and in August. One of the things that we've been learning about the roles of board members in good governance is the amount of time that is recommended to spend not just on business issues, but also in discussion about vision and goals, which high-functioning boards will do. And so this could be an opportunity, I think, for us to maybe have a couple of meetings during the year where we're able to do that. I realize it might cut into vacation planning, so I want to be sensitive to that. But I, for one, would find it helpful to have another opportunity or 2 to spend some time talking on things that have to do with non-strictly, but business items for the board. Thank you.
Yes.
So thank you. At our December meeting, we did discuss this calendar quite a bit, I believe, and there was a reason that was explained by the staff, by Ms. Martin in particular, about why that March meeting was specifically on March 8th. It had to do with some reporting requirements.
Right.
So I wonder if that's going to cause a problem to move those meetings. I don't mind having more, but
Well, you're absolutely right. I just wanted you to vote on whether or not you wanted the extra meetings. I reviewed the tape, and dropping 2 meetings was never discussed. Why the meetings were located at the time that they were located for certain budgetary reasons was well discussed, but to have removed 2 meetings and not given us a good explanation, I think it's the board's responsibility to make that decision themselves. I'm happy to eliminate them or leave them. I just wanted you to have the opportunity to decide.
And I'm not here. Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
It's okay. I was just going to say, I'm not hearing a recommendation to change the meetings, because there were very good reasons for why some of them had to be scheduled when they were. So I think, just to clarify, are we suggesting changing meetings or just adding
I think
1
we're
or 2
going to
more?
get to that in a second. I just wanted to kind of let everybody have their speech, and then I think we need to consult the cabinet as to how to place those meetings, and I'm not sure how to do that, but let's just finish up with.
So I just had a question. Isn't there a possibility if there's a necessity for a second meeting that you can advertise that and have a second meeting during a month?
Yes, yes, there is a process to allow that.
And we've had dozens, dozens. Mrs. Norby can attest, and Mrs. Weaver, because of COVID, we've had a lot.
Right, so I'm just curious, so if that's the case, if in the last year they had to be added and we already had 16 last time, and you added more,
That can be
now it
done.
sounds like that's a little overwhelming. So,
Yeah.
do we need to add anything on to this current calendar, or do we wait and see what we need to have?
Absolutely. I am not giving an opinion on this. I wanted you to have an opportunity to discuss. So I think that's a great point too, equally valid. So now we need to decide if we want to add, wait, is there any more discussion?
Well, I just would like to echo what Mr. Billingsley said. There have been meetings in the past that have been less than 15 minutes. So
August, right.
I can see why, and maybe it wasn't explicitly stated why meetings were taken off the calendar, but we have meetings when we have business to do. And I do appreciate your sentiment, Ms. Lundin, about having more time to discuss and to meet. And I think sometimes that's valuable to do in this setting. Often it's better if we can, visit schools, if we can attend webinars. There's a lot of other opportunities for us to, we're going to be having a retreat. So sometimes there's even better environments for us to actually do that kind of thing. So I'm happy to show up for whatever we need to do.
Which in that case scenario would impact us more than it impacts staff.
Yeah.
We'd still get the same benefit
Yes.
of having time together, but not impact people who work all day long as well and have to attend, even a 15-minute meeting. You still have to wait until 6 o'clock gets here to have the meeting.
That's right.
So-
And if I may just make one,
Yes.
I want to just remind you that operationally, there's a very sound reason for having the March 8th meeting rather than the 1st and the 15th.
Sure.
And it has to do with reporting that we're required to do. So my only request to the board would be that the March 8th meeting remain. But
Got
if
it.
there's additional meetings like the August 2nd meeting, certainly that's up to you if you want to schedule additional ones.
And I am not voting for more meetings, you guys. I only am bringing this up so you can make your own decision. And my only concern is that once we have a calendar, it's a little more difficult to bring people together, especially in the summer when I want to go on vacation and I'm going to be planning hopefully for something now. And so if I can see my holes, I know to plug them. If I have a feeling that because this third meeting is coming up just before school starts and we might have a lot of business to conduct the week before school starts, it worries me that if I go off somewhere and then this is a critical meeting, I won't be around. So I want to have us give our best shot. And then if we have to have emergency meetings or special meetings, then we do. But last year, these meetings were necessary. I don't know about the year before and the year before, but I'm just saying that this was a plan that seemed to be successful last year. And on top of this, we probably had 6 additional meetings, but only because of these rare circumstances of COVID. So do we have first a suggestion on which meetings we would like to keep, if any, of the 2 that are circled in red on the 2020 Governance Board meeting schedule?
I don't know if it's a motion, but I would move that we not put those back and that we allow ourselves to add meetings as needed with the business of the district.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any more discussion? Okay, so we'll take a vote. Mrs. Lopez?
Aye.
Mrs. Lundy?
Aye.
Mr. Favela?
Aye.
Mrs. Levis?
Aye.
And Mrs. Lieber? Aye. So I think we're going to leave the calendar alone. I'm not sure how to fill out the paperwork, but I can do that later. So board operations, we're down to now action item, contract with Jim Hugh. You all have a copy of his proposal in front of you. It was not attached, or no, it was attached. It was attached to the agenda. And we also have a copy here if you want to take a look at it again. I'm going to just pass those two this way and these two this way.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a first to have Mr. Hugh as a facilitator for our board workshop date to be determined.
I make a motion that we approve the contract with Jim Yu to facilitate a workshop at a date to be determined.
I'll second.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion?
Looks like he's very well qualified to lead us.
Super. It was recommended by the County Board of Education. Okay, we have a first and a second. We have no more discussion, so we'll take a vote. Mrs. Lopez,
Hi.
Mrs. Lundin,
Aye.
Mr. Favela,
Aye.
Mrs. Levis,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Thank you very much. Okay, our next will be number 4 on board operations. It's a discussion only. This will be on the 2-1 agenda as an action item. And this is on board protocol and school site visits. Again, this wasn't attached, but I believe you all have a copy in front of you of the board and superintendent's protocol. And if you turn to the second page, it's been highlighted. Thank you so much, Mrs. Weaver. It's been highlighted. It's item number 23. And it's open for discussion.
And Mrs. Lieber, I might make a few comments if I may.
Absolutely.
I'll give you my my perspective working in the district as a teacher and a principal for many years. But we've had a longstanding history here where our board members attend our schools collectively and have not had made individual appointments with principals. Principals are super busy, and that can be disruptive, and it can kind of change the tenor of what's happening at schools and in our classrooms. But we also have, from my perspective, a concern about having individual board members on campuses because you are a collective unit, and then one governing board member could possibly acquire information that the other governing board members would not have access to. So typically, and again, I'm giving you my perspective, we've had groups of governing board members attend school sites collectively, typically with the superintendent, and that is planned in advance, and so that school staffs and students can be prepared, and it's kind of like one-stop shopping for the purpose of the visit, which is get to know the school, meet some of the students, be in classrooms, meet the administrators, some of the classified staff, etc. So the other thing I wanted to say was that during the COVID restrictions, it's equally or even more difficult to have, or I guess from my perspective, to allow individuals to be making appointments at schools. So just those 3 items for your perspective as you consider this option.
Especially in time of COVID, it's very disconcerting. Does anybody else want to talk about this item? Mm-hmm.
I would. I'm the person who asked that we put this on our agenda today, and I brought it up because if you look at our current protocol, it essentially directs us to visit school sites with the superintendent and attend school functions as coordinated through the superintendent's office. I know that school visits enhance our ability to make informed decisions. As Mrs. Leaves and Mr. Favela know, because you have children in the schools, you've had an opportunity to see what goes on in the classroom, to know teachers, to meet other parents. And I suspect that it's shaped the depth of your understanding of what happens on the school sites. I think informal visits from my perspective, are far preferable to a planned orchestrated visit. And I also think that it can be a little overwhelming to have a group descending upon a classroom versus just one or two people sitting in the back of a classroom and observing what's going on. I did take the time to check with board members from other school districts in the area because I thought I should educate myself on, well, what are their policies? How do they view this? And I can tell you what I learned. The general rule that I found was that board members were encouraged to visit schools in the school district. And the procedure, it was interesting, was very, very similar for most of the districts. And that was you contact the school principal and you work with that school principal in trying to arrange that visit. In some cases, you were accompanied to a class by the principal or another member of staff. And in other cases, board members reported they would just drop in. But it was always with the coordination and the approval of the principal. During COVID times, that a number of districts logically take extra precautions. And they do that to limit the number of people on campus and to be sure that contact tracing can be done. And so that makes all the sense in the world. But hopefully we're getting to a point where we're also planning for beyond COVID and those times. I also took the opportunity to try and talk to a few teachers and see what their perspective is, because I wanted to be very sensitive to whether we're seen as being intrusive or interfering or whether it was a good thing. And they all echoed the same message, which is they felt that, first of all, they welcomed having board members on campus and in their classrooms. They felt that it gave them an opportunity to be heard. And it also gave them an opportunity to kind of show what they do and what their students are doing in a very, again, everyday way. And one of them even said, well, you know, if we're just having like a spelling bee, it's going to be really boring. And I said, you know, I don't think so, because there's a lot that you can take in from a classroom, and that's just as real as every other experience that the kids have. So here's what I would recommend us to consider. And I realize this is just for discussion today. We may bring it back for a vote. I recommend the following language for us to consider. And it would be board members may visit school sites by making arrangements for their visit with the school's principal. As time permits, they are encouraged to attend school functions. Very simple, 2 sentences. I think as publicly elected officials, we have a responsibility to being responsive to the community, and the community includes people who are on school sites, our students and our parents. And my kids are all grown, so I don't have any children in the district, and I think I would welcome and benefit from the opportunity to do this. So thank you for listening.
Thank you for a beautiful presentation. I think it's the three of us at this end all have that issue of no kids in the school.
Right.
And both of you are new to our community. So you haven't actually even seen a layout of the school. So I can understand your curiosity of wanting to get in there. And especially in COVID times where a big group will probably not be welcomed right now, a one-on-one will probably be more welcome. So that might be another reason for considering this. I'm sorry, Mrs.
I just would like to know, prior to COVID, what your experience and Ms. Lita's experience were visiting schools.
Would you like to answer?
As far, you know, as a board.
Well, I think what we've done in the past has worked very well. We have had full board visits. The superintendent's office would schedule a time that worked for as many of us as possible. And we would go, and it was very nice because we did have the opportunity to sit down with principal, the assistant principal, meet some of the teachers. They would walk us around. You know, we would have some time alone with them to let them highlight what was going on at their school. And because we were all together, they could really devote that time. And like Mr. Billings said, it wasn't them having to take that time 5 different times. It was just once that we would all sit down together, and then they would take us on a tour of the school and go into some of the classrooms. And I always got a lot out of it. In addition to those scheduled visits, in a normal year, this time of year, we would start going to band concerts, promotions, open house. May is like 2 or 3 events a week, leadership days. So there were a lot of different types of events to attend. It wasn't just that one visit. And then we also had presentations here, which I'm sure we'll have from the school sites showing, highlighting some of the programs that they had on their campuses. So I think it's worked well. You mentioned something about having informal visits, and I don't think there is such a thing as an informal visit from a board member. As a parent volunteer, before I was on the board, I witnessed what happened on a campus when a board member was coming to visit. Everyone goes on high alert. Everyone jumps into, oh my gosh, there's a board member coming. And, when we're coming for an official visit once in a while, that's one thing. If we were showing up frequently, that's distracting from their work. Their work is to run their school and to, make sure their children are being educated, deal with issues with parents. Of course, we need to know what's going on those campuses. And I think our staff does a really good job of giving us the opportunities to do that. But I think we also need to be very sensitive to our staff at the school sites to let them do their job without us, burdening them visiting too much, which I'm sure you wouldn't be there every week, or you're not suggesting that. But I do think the way that we've done it in the past has worked well. And we've had, hopefully we'll get back to where we can go to all those fun events where the kids are, they're leading the leadership days, and it's a beautiful thing. So I'll look forward to when you can visit our campuses.
Thank you. Nice.
Was there any kind of feedback from the schools themselves of whether they liked that process or didn't like that process? Or
I'm assuming, I haven't heard specifically, I'm assuming
Karen,
that's
did you
what's
have pretty intimidating, but I don't think a one-on-one would be much less. I mean, I know teachers are running or texting, they're on their way.
oh yeah,
And-
the minute you're on the campus, it's like when the WASC team arrives. It's like they're here.
Yes. So I
Everybody
know
do what
it's-
you're supposed to do.
It's extremely stressful, and
Yeah.
I find it stressful because I can feel their stress. And we're all scooting into a room with 30 kids like this, and then we all stand in the back, and the teacher doesn't know, am I supposed to acknowledge them
Yeah.
here, or am I supposed to just act like they're not here? It's wonderful to see, but I can totally understand that. As a teacher myself, I work in the educational field. I find when I get my evaluations, I'm, almost sick to my stomach, which is ridiculous, but it is just human nature when you're being evaluated.
Sure.
And to them, they're being evaluated.
Right.
And I do think bringing it down a notch, especially for the 3 new board members, you have children, so you don't quite count. But for the 2 new board members, I'm not saying that we shouldn't revisit this at a future date, but I do think we should make this a little scaled down, especially with COVID, give them some opportunities to see the programs, the schools, just the architecture, just how the classrooms are laid out, to look at the multi-purpose rooms and see them where the lunch rooms are. I mean, none of that has been seen by the 2 of you, and it has been, it's going to be a time more. So I'm all for giving you access, and then maybe in a year we'll say, we got through that. Let's consider it every year, another time. How is it working? How do we want to move forward?
I wonder if it would be possible to do any kind of visits like late afternoon when the students aren't there and maybe staff are doing their prepping or whatever. It wouldn't be quite as intimidating.
I too felt the obligation as board president to make some inquiries. And I did call around to Bonsall, Fallbrook High, Vista, I think in one other school. And I did get a sense that that is one of the options also. Just to, if they're making a site visit, they like Cipriano at Vista, they notify the superintendent, especially because of COVID now, they let the principal know, and then they go right on. At Bonsall, there's just no protocol at all. At the high school, they spent a lot more time visiting after school hours, especially because I think there's a lot of, there's no movement right now.
Right.
But when there's a lot of movement, I think it's, especially at this time, you want to be more cautious, so they go into the classrooms after. So that's just the research I've done, and it's very little, but I wanted to check out some few locations. So this is, like I said, a discussion item, so
Yeah, I would like to add, as you know, I have kids in 2 schools. And it's, very, giving us a chance, giving myself a chance to really see what's the inner workings of the school. Then I feel that we have a benefit that you all don't have. At Mayales, I was asked to volunteer for the morning drop-off, and I'm sure I'd be willing to volunteer, and I think we all should be willing to volunteer if needed, right? So I would hate to see that restriction. I attended one, and I'm going to keep attending the DLAC meetings at Mayales, Potter, and I don't want to just show preference to Mayales either. I want to be able to attend a DLAC meeting at our other schools as well. So I don't know if that would be, I'm concerned about that restriction if I'm, not following this policy or not. So yeah, I would like to see some less constraints here. So that way we can be more involved in our schools.
okay, well, that was a beautiful discussion. I think we're pretty much discussed on, and I will definitely ask that this be put on the 2-1 agenda. Okay, we'll now be moving on to business services. We have an action item, Resolution 13, 2021, authorization to contract for modular building products.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? I believe that was probably well addressed already in our week report from our fearless superintendent. So we will take a vote. Mrs. Lopez,
Aye.
Mrs. Lundin,
Aye.
Mr. Favela,
Aye.
Mrs. Libas,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Thank you very much. So the resolution passes 5-0. And then human resources, action item number 1. We have 1 new classified 8.0 school clerk bilingual position. Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Do we have any discussion? Again, this was, I think, well explained, and when we set the agenda, thank you, you gave us a lot of helpful information. We'll be taking a roll call, so Mrs. Lopez,
Aye.
Mrs. Lundin,
Aye.
Mr. Favela,
Aye.
Mrs. Libas,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Okay, educational services, we're action item number 1, school accountability report. Do we have a motion to accept the school accountability report?
So moved.
Actually, accountability report cards. Sorry. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
It's very helpful. Very good to be able to see what's the report of our schools, and I found it very helpful.
It was super helpful.
It's always interesting to read and to see each school's sort of unique personality come through. They're not copy and paste of everything. So it's nice to get a little glimpse into each school's personality.
They are very well written and very interesting. I think they're enough yet concise. So I really appreciate all the work that you put into that, Mrs. Norby, and your staff.
It's a team effort, trust me.
Yeah, I know.
Each site principal and my assistant and my directors, it's a team effort.
Make sure you pass that along from the board, that we appreciate that effort.
Is the list that we have here, I'm assuming, it does not include the one change that was made, or?
Not in the board agenda, that's why I provided you a hard copy of it, but the one that gets posted on the website will have the
Does
addition.
have the change,
will
so
have
we
the change.
don't need to address it at all.
Yeah, we'll change that. They get posted to the website after they're approved and submitted to the state as well.
So is there any more discussion? We have a first and a second, and now we're taking roll call. Mrs. Lopez,
Aye.
Mrs. Lundin,
Aye.
Mr. Favela,
Aye.
Mrs. Libas,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Thank you. The next will be a first read of the 2021-2022 and 2022-2023 instructional school calendars. Do we have a first to have these calendars?
I don't
Also
believe it's
move.
an action item.
It's just
Oh,
a
I'm
first
sorry.
read.
Just a first read.
Isn't
Oh,
an
that's right,
action
it's a
item.
first read,
Thank
you're
you
right.
so much. So do we have any discussion? It will come back as an action item on 2-1.
Correct.
Okay,
These calendars will be shared with Fallbrook High School, so that there's some coordination.
They have been already.
I believe that's.
They've been
already-
already.
okay, and then a first read of the 2021-2022 Mike Choate Center Preschool Instructional School Calendar. So we have a lot to blend, right? So we have the blending of the preschool and then us and then the high school and
Lots to coordinate.
yeah. Any discussion? Okay, and then we have an information only, the Williams complaint, second quarterly report. As usual, please our help. You do a great job. Thank you again for keeping us in compliance. Okay, and now we will be going to the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that you would like to have pulled for discussion?
I have a comment on the routine personnel. I would like to congratulate Ms. Covarrubias on her retirement. In our household, she's known as Miss Marta. Because when my older son was first born and he was a little tiny baby and he screamed all day and I didn't know what to do with myself, we went to the Mike Choate Center literally every single day to go to the mommy and baby music classes. And I learned so much from Miss Marta, so much more than just songs and stories and what to do with the screaming child. And I just wanted to thank her on behalf of my kids and all the many, many children in Fallbrook who have benefited from her teaching over the years.
Yes,
Thank her for her service to our community.
I talked to Mr. Billingsley about this, and we hope to have an opportunity to thank her in person in the future when we have a retirement celebration.
For sure.
Unfortunately, we missed out on last year's retirement celebration, which I feel bad about, but sometimes things are out of our control. I do want to also say that Martha and I actually won't go back. I used to teach for this district with the adult ed program, and Martha has been around for her. She was a dear back then as well. Any more comments?
Yeah, I would like to add, with Mrs. Covarrubias. I had a chance to take a class with her about the first 5 years, 1 through 5, and that was it was a blessing. It was a great program. So yeah, I definitely want to thank her for everything she's done, even for our own family. It's it helped us survive the first 5 years and helped us are calm and cool. And so great. She's done great work. Yeah.
Super. We hope you will transfer these, whoever will see her next, these warm hugs from all of us that have known her all these years.
Well, she's touched all of us, Mrs.
Yeah,
Lee.
he has.
Our loss is her gain. So we wish her the very, very best, but we also thank her for the many years of exceptional service to our
How
district.
many years did she work for our district? It has to be in the 30s.
I don't know the exact number, but I'd be happy to provide that information to you. But I think she's touched each of us in our own way. So I know it's many years.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you. Okay, so any more comments on the consent agenda? Okay, so we have a first and a second, is that correct? No, we don't, my fault. Do we have a first? Thank you, Jill.
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second, yes.
And now we will take a vote. Mrs. Lopez,
Aye.
Mrs. Lundin,
Aye.
Mr. Favela,
Aye.
Mrs. Libas.
Aye.
And I vote aye. So we have now completed our consent agenda. I do want to thank Dr. Singh for her wonderful job and Mr. Billingsley of keeping us informed as we went through really our very first board meeting agenda. It was interesting and helpful. Thank you.
Very much.
So now that we're at the end of our consent agenda, I actually would like to make a motion if I could. I move that we table the closed session to our February 1st board meeting so that our new legal counsel will be in place. and can attend.
You're making a motion?
I am.
Do we have a second? Do we have any discussion?
Well, we have our legal counsel here. He came specifically for this closed session, and
Right.
I have questions for him, so I would like to have the opportunity to speak with him. And for us to speak with him as a governing board.
I think we could do that at our next meeting. I didn't get a sense that there was anything on that agenda that was time sensitive, but I do think that there is an item or two on the agenda that has bearing to the issue that we met about on Saturday. And if that's the case, then it would behoove us to consider that when we have legal counsel in the room as well. Just so that we make sure that we're benefiting from the counsel that we bring on board.
But there's no reason that we wouldn't be able to meet tonight and discuss whatever we were going to discuss, and then add another session if we needed to on February 1st with.
There might be action items that we would need legal counsel's advice on, and I don't know what they are. So
Right, so we wouldn't,
bring them up twice, I don't believe.
well, we wouldn't need to take the action tonight, is my thought. If there was something that required an action that anybody felt uncomfortable with, we would put that off until the other legal counsel was in place.
Well, we can take a vote. Is there any more discussion?
Well, there's two items listed under closed session. One is personnel, so I'm wondering if Mr. Billingsley has things that he needs to discuss with us that are timely, or is that something that could wait?
It's actually Mr. Shinoff will be in the meeting this evening. My recommendation is that you go ahead and meet this evening, but it's up to the governing board.
Any more comments or concerns? Okay, so we'll take a vote. Mrs. Lopez?
No.
Mrs. Mundine?
Aye.
Mr. Favela?
Aye.
Mrs. Olivas?
So the motion is to table
Table.
the no.
Okay, and I vote aye. Thank you very much. And I am now gaveling us out of this meeting at 7:03.